Before you replace your 10-speed transmission in your Ford F-150, you're going to want to listen to this. I am Dave Riccio with John Riggle. We are your bumper-to-bumper podcast that is powered by Tri-City Transmission and Auto Repair in Tempe, Arizona. And we're putting you in the know when it comes to your car. And these Ford 10-speeds, John, this is where people get into trouble because they Google Ford F-150 transmission problem, and they go right down a wormhole, and they convince themselves that they have a problem because they're automotive hypochondriacs, and they think they need to spend $10,000 on a transmission replacement, when in fact they don't. So 10 speeds, in the advent of 10 speeds, John, we're seeing them all the time. Why 10-speed? What is a 10-speed transmission? I know when I started in the business, 3 speeds.
Yeah.
I remember the early transmission problem. I started in general repair, was at 3-speed in those front-wheel drive Chevys, and when you'd come up to a stop, the engine would die. Remember that?
Right. Yeah.
And if somebody had some money to fix it, you'd pull off the side cover and put a torque converter solenoid in it. And if someone didn't, you just cut the wire for them. But if they were in that kind of situation, you would do that to fix it. But that was 3-speed transmission.
Yeah.
And when you started, 3-speed or 2-speed?
No, 3-speed. Yeah. No. I came in after the Power Glide. So yeah. I started with 3 speeds and stuff. And yeah, and it's all been driven by efficiency and fuel economy. I mean, those are the two big drivers between seeing these transmissions with more and more speeds. We're trying to operate the engine. You know, it's a dynamic environment, different load changes, speed changes, everything. We're trying to operate that engine in its most efficient power range. Engines are usually have a sweet spot where they're the most fuel efficient. We generate the best combination of power and fuel efficiency. And if we can operate them there because we've got different, more choices for speeds to maintain that those operating conditions, that's an advantage. So it makes sense to have more speeds. It adds complexity, but it is what it is. We're seeing 8, 9, 10 speeds. Really common.
In the lighter cars, you're seeing CVT, which is constant variable.
Continuously variable.
Continuous variable transmission.
Yeah.
It's another way of doing the same thing. CVTs work on lighter vehicles, but when you get them at trucks and towing and all that stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't work so good.
In your F-150, your Ford F-150, which is one of the most common trucks on the road, you're going to find this. It's a 10R80 transmission. There's a lot of them on the road, and they continually are replaced in error. And that's why I'm saying you got to watch this video.
Yeah.
Because you've got a 10R80, you just got a call from Acme Auto Repair where your truck's at.
Yeah.
Because you took it in there because it's shifting funky. You don't know how to describe it. It's 10 speeds and it's shifting funky. And the guy down there at Acme Auto Repair goes, yeah, definitely shifting funky. And looks like there's maybe a little bit of metal in the fluid. And I did some checking. The transmission is available for it. We can have it done this Friday, but it's going to be $10,000.
Yeah.
I get that phone call when they're calling me for a second opinion. Because they're like, $10,000, the truck's barely got 100,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I see these things start to show up at 40 and 50,000. We delivered one at 48,000 miles just on Friday with this 10R80, and he already had the expensive quote.
Right.
So if you got a 10R80 and you got an F-150, and it could be the Ford Mustang, it's also in the Ford Mustang, it's in Expeditions, it's in a lot of their vehicles that have 10 speeds that have this transmission. And the two biggest, I'm going to go with the number one that I've seen, and that's going to be shift adaptations. And John, give us a quick overview of shift adaptations and what you see.
Okay, these transmissions are designed, the system is designed to continuously compensate for wear in the transmission. So when this car is brand new and it rolls off the assembly line, we can pretty much predict how this thing is going to operate and how it's going to shift. Over a period of time, we have clutches wear, we have engine performance will change. There's a lot of things that change over a period of time. So we use these adaptive strategies to determine how to make the transmission shift as well as possible while you're driving the car. So the computer knows when it commanded a shift to occur, and since we have speed sensors in the transmission, we can determine how long it took for that shift to actually take place. And we can use pressure switches and speed sensors, and we could get a really good idea how long each one of these shifts is taking to happen, because we've got two goals. We want the shift to happen quickly, but we want a minimum amount of shift shock. We really, customers don't want to feel the car, bumper jerk. So we have to kind of balance that. So we use these adaptive strategies, and these adaptive strategies just look and say, I commanded the shift, it took too long. Next time I'm going to increase the pressure when we do that shift. And it's dynamic. It happens all the time. Unfortunately, on some occasions, and I see it mostly with battery charging system issues, or low fluid issues. Fluid level issues can skew those adaptives. And those adaptives may not properly relearn back once they get railed out, towards the farther ends of the adaptations. For instance, if we had one that was low on fluid and it had some hard shifts and stuff, now if we've put fluid in it, now we have been trying to compensate for that low fluid by adding a whole bunch of extra pressure to make the shifts happen. Now, what we'll find out, we fill it up with fluid, now we've got some really hard, nasty shifts out of the thing. That means we have to reset the adapts. We've got to put the adapts back where they were and let the transmission relearn. I see it when battery voltage goes low. It confuses, because these transmissions are all computer controlled. The voltage for the solenoids and current flow through the solenoids is really, really important. So if we've made these adaptations to compensate for a low battery condition, we put a new battery in it, now we've got these funky shifts. Now we've got to go ahead and redo the adapts and relearns. And a lot of times, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the transmission. It was just something that happened on the control side.
And this is missed all the time on a 10R80. And I love making this phone call because it's so much fun. I mean, people come in and are like, all right, man, they quoted me $10,000 at Acme Auto Repair. And I hope you guys find some good news. Maybe it's something simple. And that's what everybody hopes for at a transmission shop. And I don't blame them either. But it takes a while to actually figure, to go through the steps to make sure that is what it is.
Oh, some of the 10 speeds are hard to learn. It takes quite a bit of a road test, and you really got to be paying attention to load and speed and everything else.
And also temperature of the transmission.
Oh, yeah.
Because they act one way warm and they act a different way cold, and you've got to look at all those dynamics in the situation when you're diagnosing them. But what I get to do is I get to call them. See, I get the fun part. You don't actually get the reaction.
Yeah.
But I call them up, and this is the answer every time I call people. I say, hey, Dave, Tri-City Transmission and Auto Repair, how you doing? I'm doing okay, but actually you're going to tell me how I'm doing. And I'm like, I don't be responsible for your happiness. And they're like, give me the news. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, John's test driven your car, and it's all fixed. It's all fixed? Yeah, it's all fixed. What'd you do? Oh, he cleared the shift adaptations, and he performed a relearn drive cycle, and it's all good to go.
Yeah.
It's going to cost you $300.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's so happy. So anyway, I call that, it's like delivering a baby on the side of the road. If you're an EMT, you're like, hey, once in a while I get to offer some good news, and it's not a bad situation, right? So I enjoy that, but that's very, very common. So shift adaptations, that's why I say you got to watch this before you go spending
and the problem with that one is one that gets misdiagnosed a lot. Because the guys don't consider it as an option, right? Comes in, trans doesn't shift right, fluid's full for whatever reason or not. Oh yeah, it's got to be an internal problem. They're ready to sell a transmission. Nobody's actually done their due diligence, and
oftentimes they don't know what they don't know, and sometimes these come from the dealer. Well, I know they know.
Yeah.
But, back to our conversation in our last podcast, flat rate, they're like, yep, needs a tranny. The 10R80 is a good transmission. I haven't actually rebuilt one yet.
It's a good transmission. We fix a lot of
We fix them.
We fix a lot.
We fix the problem but once they're fixed, they're going to go the long distance. We never find the clutches burn up in them.
No, we never get them with burn-up clutches. I mean, real rare. Every once in a while, you had one run low on fluid or something. But
so the number one problem is shift adaptations, and the number two problem is going to be this thing called a CDF drum.
Yeah.
And in an automatic transmission, there's different sets of clutches that do different things and come on at different times. And they'll use different nomenclature as far as how they identify the clutches in the transmission. So if you're talking about a Mercedes, maybe it's they like to use letters, I think.
Yeah,
in
A,
the
B,
clutches.
C, D, and E. Yeah.
And in this Ford, they use A, B, C, D, and E.
Yeah.
Now, some transmissions may use underdrive clutch, low reverse, overdrive clutch, all those
yeah,
things.
GM 3.5 reverse and whatever. They'll use different terminologies. Yeah.
Yeah, and so in this 10-speed transmission from Ford, there's a drum called a CDF drum, which means it's applied in C clutch, D clutch, and F clutch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to give you a specific set of symptoms that you can identify. And it's busy transmission, so it takes some time to pick it out.
Yeah.
You got to do it hot. You got to do it cold.
Yeah.
That type of thing. So in the CDF drum, a transmission is a hydraulic machine, so it relies on hydraulic pressure. So if we go to third gear, a lot of different things happened with the flow of fluid and solenoids and a computer all involved. And so in a transmission, there's bushings. And the bushings they're like bearings. They allow two surfaces to rotate independent of each other.
Right.
And so the transmission's packed full of bushings. The other thing the transmission's packed full of is hydraulic ports and passages, which are in this drum. So the CDF drum in this Ford, and the bushing's about that wide and maybe about that round, that CDF drum moves a little bit, and it covers over a hydraulic passage. And then if it goes far enough, it'll actually damage some sealing rings on the input of the transmission. There.
Right.
I forget what that gizmo's called. Ken would be our expert on
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
But it damages the sealing rings. I don't think it off the top of my head right now. So we do an awful lot of CDF drum replacements. Again, it's not a whole transmission. You identify it. We call the customer. We say, hey, chances are all you need is a CDF drum.
Yeah.
We're going to pull it apart. If the rest of the transmission checks out good and it's just a CDF drum, we're going to go ahead and replace that CDF drum, new fluid, new filter, and you're going to be good for another 150,000 miles.
Yeah.
I have no problem doing that.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do that because they're so much happy. They got that quote for $10,000 from the dealership or the auto repair shop, and I'm happy to go in and do that because they're happy and I'm happy. I want people to like me.
And that's one of the things we call that one's a pattern failure, right? That one was one that was a poor execution on the design. That bushing had nothing to prevent it from walking back and forth inside that drum. Now the new updated drums actually have a shelf cut into them so that bushing cannot walk anymore. And they updated those in August of 22. Was the date that they tell you that they in production, they were updated. So all the 10R80s after August of 22, and there's a little leeway
overlap.
there. Yeah, there's some overlap there. But beyond that, you won't see that particular failure anymore. But all of the ones before that, and they built a lot of these. There's a lot of Ford trucks.
Count the F-150s out there. And I think that 10-speed came around in 16 or 17 roughly is what I'm thinking.
Yeah. And the thing about that is the 10R80 gets a bad reputation for it because they all did the same thing, right? Well, yeah, they messed up.
Yeah.
But beyond that, it's really a pretty good transmission. Now, we do see some wear in the big, we call it a trash can, the other big drum that fails. We see some wear in those on occasion. And that's fairly common too.
And sometimes when we pull them out, we'll see that wear. So a lot of times we're doing a CDF drum and a trash can if needed. And that's our name for it because it looks like a trash can.
Yeah. And I've heard guys talk about valve body issues with them. We see few valve body issues with them here, and I don't know why. The guys on the internet are all about that.
I'm researching my brain right now, and I got a pretty good pattern recognition brain. I spot stuff pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I can't think of when I've done a valve body on a 10R80. I don't think we have.
I don't think
it's happened.
I don't remember it.
So you got to be careful when you're reading on the internet. I mean, some people are experts and some people aren't, but they sure act like they are. And maybe I'm not an expert. I don't know.
Yeah, but the most important thing about that is that transmission is highly repairable.
Highly repairable.
There's no reason to throw the thing away. There's no reason to get a complete rebuild unless the thing had a catastrophic failure. Man, they're real fixable for a guy who's got the skills and ability.
Right. Right. And you can put yourself in the know in that why we want you to watch this. And if there's a less reputable shop, they may call it an overhaul and just fix the CDF drum. Because when I open them up, I can't see spending any money on anything else in there. Everything looks great.
Yeah.
So, it's definitely something that can be fixed. And that's the thing at Tri-City Transmission Auto Repair that the business started on back in 1972 was, hey, you don't always have to just replace or rebuild the transmission. Yeah, Mike and Leon, who started this place, they would have people come in and say, "Oh yeah, the shop down the street said I need a transmission," and they would go down and change the vacuum modulator. I mean, that was back in the simple days.
Yeah,
But there was a vacuum modulator on there, and it probably cost a couple bucks and a little piece of hose because it was leaking and it deteriorated the vacuum hose. But that was the fix back then. But that reputation has just really been at the core of our business. Is you wouldn't throw a motor out and replace an engine because you had a bad spark plug. You would just fix it. But the transmission to the automotive industry is a black box. And so people don't know what they don't know when it comes to them. But if you Google F-150 right now, you're going to see a whole litany of stuff. And people always go down the worst case scenario. Oh, I need a transmission. And they're so relieved when they leave here and they're like, no, it really works good. You guys fixed it for that price? Yeah, we sure did. You're going to be happy with it. So before you buy a transmission on your 10-speed Ford F-150 or your Ford Mustang or your Ford whatever, you're going to want to watch this, know what to do about it. It doesn't have to be thrown out. It can be fixed. This is Bumper to Bumper Podcast. I am Dave Riccio along with John Riggle, and we are powered by Tri-City Transmission and Auto Repair. We'll see you next time. Well, hello, I'm Dave Riccio, your host of the Bumper to Bumper Podcast, and I would like to thank you for tuning in. If you want one of your car questions to be answered on our podcast, tap the link in the description for a chance to have your question featured. And while you are there, we would love for you to like and subscribe to see more Bumper to Bumper podcasts in the future.